Immortal Alchemist of Rome Part 3. Chapter 18, The Chamber of Smoke. Location, outside Geneva, Forest Safe House, 4:17 a.m. The cold mountain wind cut through the trees like knives. Inside a camouflaged prefab shelter, Magnus, Gaius, and Eva huddled in silence. The air was thick with burnt ozone, residual energy from the null dust ampoule Magnus used to suppress Eva's flare. Eva lay on a cot, feverish but conscious, her breath shaky and uneven. "She's stabilizing," Magnus muttered, scanning her vitals through a biosig crystal. "But the fragment is still active." Gaius crouched by the window, eyes watching the tree lean. "We don't have long." That burst lit her up like a flare. "They'll track her." "Maybe they already have." Eva's voice rasped from the cot. "I hear them." Magnus turned. Eva sat up, her eyes hollow and shimmering. "I hear the others inside me. Voices, from the seed. The ones Lucian burned. They're screaming." Magnus moved to her side. "Eva, listen to me. You're not them. You're still in control." But she wasn't so sure. Because one of the voices had started calling her by a name that wasn't hers. Kasia. It began as a charity event. A miracle demonstration from a European startup. They called it Theraflame, a cutting-edge biotech treatment for terminal children. In the middle of a live-streamed segment, a smiling nurse rolled out a small boy in a wheelchair. He was smiling. Until he started laughing uncontrollably. Then shaking. Then his mouth opened, and gold smoke poured out. The nurse convulsed. Her face split. Her eyes bulged with liquid gold. Before the cameras could cut, the boy's body cracked open in flame, and the new fireborn stood tall in his place. A child's face. A man's voice. A memory that didn't belong to either. Rome burned. Now you do. Gaius turned up the satellite feed. Eva covered her mouth. He used a child. Magnus slammed his fist into the table. He's accelerating. They're not just seeding now, Gaius said. They're broadcasting. This is terroraz theology. Eva stood, shaky but furious. We have to stop him. Agreed, Magnus said. And I know where he's heading next. An hour later, Magnus, Gaius, and Eva infiltrated a sprawling compound hidden beneath Zurich's old banking district, an ancient vault restructured into something far more sinister. The place was called the Chamber of Smoke. Magnus had helped design it, a century ago, when Lucian claimed he wanted to hide dangerous relics, not replicate them. Now, it served a darker purpose. They moved through the corridors in silence. Gold-veined walls pulsed softly, and strange whispers echoed from the vents. Then they found it. A room lined with mirror-like pods, each one containing a person in stasis. Dozens. Some were whispering in their sleep. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Magnus stared in horror. These aren't hosts. They're recorders, Eva realized. He's trapping memory in flesh. Growing new minds from stolen lives. And then she froze. Because in the last pod on the far wall, she saw herself. A second Eva. Sleeping. Growing. And pulsing with gold light. You see now, he said, his voice booming from unseen speakers. Memory is fuel. Identity is infection. You are not the only Eva. You are not the first. And you will not be the last. Eva stepped toward the pod. But the other Eva's eyes snapped open. And in her voice, but without emotion, she whispered. Kasia remembers you. Suddenly, the walls erupted. Smoke filled the chamber. Lucian had never planned to stop them here. He wanted them to see it. To feel it. To ignite it. Magnus, we have to go. Gaius shouted, dragging him from the pod. But Magnus wouldn't stop staring at it. At her. We have to kill the copy, he whispered. Eva looked back. And for the first time in her life, she said. No. She raised her hand, her real hand, and with a crack of white gold lightning, collapsed the entire row of pods, but left the copy intact. Because she knew. If she was going to survive what was coming, she'd have to face herself. Chapter 19, Lovers in the Ruins. Location, abandoned monastery, south of Milan, 1:23 a.m. Rain fell in slanted sheets, soaking the ruined cloister stones. Magnus and Eva moved through the hollowed halls of the old monastery, the walls still marked with faded frescoes and scorched scripture. No one had worshipped here in centuries. It was one of the last safe places Magnus knew, before the world had changed. Before he had changed it. Gaius secured the perimeter while Magnus led Eva to the refectory, now serving as a makeshift triage room. Her skin was damp, her pulse erratic, but the golden flicker behind her eyes had stabilized. You need rest, Magnus said, removing his coat and wrapping it around her shoulders. Eva sat down slowly. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, someone else opens them. He sat beside her. She looked at him carefully. When you look at me, who do you see? He hesitated. Eva, he said. But sometimes, her shadow. Kasia. Magnus nodded. Kasia stood barefoot before Magnus, the firelight casting her in flickering amber. You never trusted me, she said. I wanted to, Magnus replied. But you never did. She stepped close. Then why did you love me? He had no answer. So he kissed her instead. Eva leaned forward, her voice low. Kasia loved you. I know that now. I feel it. And I feel your guilt. I don't need your forgiveness, Magnus murmured. I'm not offering it, Eva said. I'm asking you to stop treating me like I'm someone else's echo. He looked up. And there, despite the war still burning around them, despite the hybrids and the memories and the monsters inside her, there was a moment. No fire. No alchemy. Just her. And him. He kissed her. And for a moment, the ruins didn't matter. He stood in the courtyard, rain dripping from his cloak, eyes fixed on the broken statue of a weeping angel. He remembered another night. Another fire. Another betrayal. She'll break him, he said quietly. Like the last one did. Lucian stood before a mirror made of obsidian and dust. He smiled. They're bonding, he whispered. Perfect. Kasia, still bound by memory chains, spoke from her corner, her voice bitter and low. You don't understand what love does to him. I understand exactly, Lucian said. Love makes him weak. And you prove that. He turned to the mirror. Let them kiss, he said. Let them lie to each other. He raised a single gold-threaded needle. And when she breaks again, I'll be the one waiting. Eva awoke to whispering. Not in the room. Not in the monastery. Inside her. The voices were clearer now. Names, faces, places. Lives once burned into ash. She followed the sound down into the crypt, candle in hand. The walls were covered in old Latin. She could read every word, even though she'd never studied it. Kasia had. She stopped at a stone sarcophagus. Her hand reached out. And without warning, it burst into golden flame. Magnus came running. By the time he reached her, the flames had faded. and Eva was holding something in her hands. A letter. Sealed in wax. Bearing the mark of the old Roman court. She held it up. "It's from me," she said. "But I've never written it." Chapter 20, The Last Veil. Location, crypt beneath the abandoned monastery, 3:04 a.m. The wax seal on the letter was ancient. But it broke like it had been waiting. Eva's fingers trembled as she unrolled the brittle parchment. The Latin inside was written in a delicate, elegant hand, Casha's hand. The ink had been laced with trace elements of gold. Not enough to burn. Just enough to remember. Magnus leaned over her shoulder, his breath still unsteady from running through the crypt. "Is it really hers?" he whispered. Eva nodded. Then she began to read. Casha's letter, 64 AD. "To the one who will hold this after I'm gone, whether you are Magnus, or the woman I was supposed to become. I must confess a second betrayal. I told Lucian about the vault under the Temple of Vesta. I led him there. I didn't mean to, he caught me after I tried to flee. He used my blood to activate the gate. I thought I could control it. I was wrong. The fire wasn't just Nero's madness. It was Lucian's beginning. And mine. But before I gave him the final formula, I stole something from the lab. A failsafe. The last vial of the original, uncorrupted dust. Not Lucian's version. Not his poison. It's buried beneath this place. It can stop the chain. But only if given willingly. And only by the one who carries the seed. You must decide if the world is worth the cost of keeping it alive." Silence filled the crypt. Magnus took a step back. "She had it all along. A way to stop the expansion. And she never told you," Eva said. Magnus' face was unreadable. "She didn't trust me enough." Or, Eva whispered, "she knew what you'd do with it." The storm had passed. The sky was bruised silver. Gaius stood beneath a half-dead fig tree, sharpening a blade that hadn't drawn blood in over 50 years. Magnus approached slowly. "She buried a vial here," he said. "The last of the pure formula." Gaius didn't look up. "And? I need to dig." "You don't have time," Gaius said flatly. "The cult just released a new signal. Barcelona's under lockdown. Another fireborn is waking up." Magnus exhaled. "If I can stabilize Eva with the original dust, we might be able to purge the seed before it turns her." Gaius finally met his gaze. "Or it'll fuse them permanently." Magnus nodded. "That's the risk. And if it doesn't work? I lose her." Gaius wiped the blade clean. "Then maybe you should start thinking about how to stop her instead of how to save her." They found the vial inside a hollowed stone wrapped in layers of silk and wax. Still warm. Still glowing. Eva stood before it, barefoot on the cold earth. Her eyes no longer flickered, they burned. Not violently. But steady. Like coals waiting for breath. "I can feel her more clearly now," she said. "Casha?" Magnus asked. She nodded. "And the others too?" "Hundreds. Thousands." He stepped forward. "This is your choice, Eva. This dust was made to preserve. Not to rewrite. If you take it, it might stop the seed. Or it might fuse the fire to your soul permanently." She held the vial to the light. "Do you trust me?" Magnus hesitated. Then, quietly. "With the last of me." Eva uncorked the vial. Drank. And fell to her knees, gasping. Gold surged through her veins, but this time it didn't explode. It settled. Like a key finding its lock. Her eyes flared, once. Then dimmed. Then steadied. She stood slowly. And when she looked at Magnus, she was still Eva. But Kasha's voice spoke in her mind. You've inherited more than memory. You've inherited judgment. Lucian stood before a vast table covered in maps and glowing threads of alchemical energy. Ezen approached. We've lost signal from the original seed. Lucian frowned. Eva? No. Kasha. She's gone quiet. Lucian turned toward a tall mirror lined with chains. Then smiled. Good, he said. Let the girl believe she's won something. He poured a glass of crimson wine and raised it to the mirror. Let her come. It'll be more poetic that way, when she burns everything. Chapter 21, The Resurrection Rite. Location, Blackmoor Mountains, Austria, Lucian's stronghold, 11:47 p.m. High above the tree line, carved directly into the cliffside, was the sanctum known only as the Ember Cradle. It wasn't visible by drone. It didn't appear on satellite feeds. But Magnus knew it well. He had helped build its foundation over 2 centuries ago, when he still believed Lucian's lies. Now it stood as the cult's final sanctuary. And at its heart, a vault unlike any other, a resonance chamber crafted to channel the resurrection rite, the final phase of the fireborn evolution. Tonight, Lucian would activate it. And the world would never be the same. The road was narrow. Unmarked. Snow fell in thick curtains. Inside the van, Eva sat with her eyes closed, breathing slowly. Her pulse had stabilized. The golden flickers in her veins no longer surged or spasmed. They glowed. Magnus watched her in silence, Gaius behind the wheel. She's different, Gaius muttered. Calmer. Controlled. Magnus nodded. The pure dust didn't remove the seed. It merged with it. Tempered it. She's not just a host anymore, Gaius said. She's a vessel. Magnus turned toward her. Eva, what are you feeling? Eva opened her eyes. Everything. Memory was no longer linear. Eva stood in an ocean of voices. She could see Kasha's death, Lucian's betrayal, Magnus' past, and a city she had never seen before, burning in her name. The Vatican, reduced to ash. Children kneeling in gold, chanting her name. The fire crawling up her arms, and her smiling as it spread. She gasped and clutched the side of the van. Magnus caught her. Eva, what did you see? A future, she whispered. One I'm supposed to make happen. The resonance vault was a vast, circular chamber lined with gold-forged glyphs. At its center was a monolithic altar surrounded by 12 fireborn in stasis, each representing a nation. Lucian stood at the apex, wearing robes laced with gold thread, a staff tipped with a shard of the original corrupted stone. Behind him, a golden skeleton hung suspended from chains, Nero's. Still faintly alive. Still fused to the seed that had begun it all. Lucian raised the staff. The resurrection rite begins now, he declared. Let memory become matter. Let fire become flesh. Let the dead burn again. They moved on foot now, hiking the last slope, scaling frozen rock with ropes and silence. A storm howled behind them. Eva stopped suddenly, placing her hand on a fallen stone pillar near the outer wall. Her eyes widened. What is it? Magnus whispered. She touched the glyphs. I can see their history, she said. Every memory ever written here. Every fireborn that came before. Every death. Every scream. Gaius raised an eyebrow. Useful. Or horrifying? Eva looked up. There's still time to stop it. But if I enter that chamber. I don't know who I'll be when I come out. Lucian chanted. The fireborn stirred. Nero's remains began to glow. Let the first fire rise once more, Lucian intoned. And then the chamber doors blew open. Smoke poured in. And Eva stepped through it. Golden light pulsed beneath her skin. Lucian froze. You came, he said. I'm not yours, she replied. He smiled. That's the thing about memory, we never really own it. We just pass it on. He raised the staff. But Eva raised her hand. And for the first time since the stone was born, the fire obeyed someone other than Lucian. The fireborn screamed in unison. The glyphs on the walls cracked. The golden skeleton of Nero burst into flame, its final echo extinguished. Lucian dropped to one knee, sweat pouring down his face. Impossible, he whispered. Eva stepped closer. You wanted a goddess, she said. You created a graveyard. Chapter 22, Death That Feels Like Heaven. Location, the Ember Cradle, Inner Resonance Vault, 12:04 a.m. The fireborn screamed in chorus, 12 voices, 12 nations, 12 memories converging into something primal. Eva stood in the center of it all, no longer the hunted. Now, she was the fulcrum. The air crackled around her as the resonance field collapsed in waves, each pulse flashing like a golden heart. The temperature rose. The walls sweated gold. And the chain memory began to fracture. Lucian fell to his knees before her. He had never knelt before anyone. Not even Nero. You shouldn't exist, he rasped. And yet, Eva said, her voice layered with the echoes of hundreds, here I am. Eva saw it clearly now. Not as a dream. Not as a hallucination. But as memory, preserved in the seed like fossilized fire. Kasha's blood on the altar. Her whispered vow to destroy Lucian. The knife she had hidden in her boot. The vial she never used. The scream that became her rebirth. And then a choice. She could have let the fire consume her. But instead, Kasha chose to live again. In Eva. Magnus and Gaius fought their way through the collapsing corridors outside the vault. Cultists ran screaming. Fireborn writhed in their containment fields, unable to hold form. The walls burned with words no one alive could read, except Magnus. He stopped suddenly. This place, it's waking up. Gaius nodded grimly. Then we end it. Here. Now. They forced the final door. Just in time to see Eva floating above the shattered altar, eyes glowing white-hot, hands outstretched. Lucian crawled back, shielding his face. But the fire wasn't killing him. Not yet. It was showing him everything he had done, as if the stone itself had turned on its master. The children used as test vessels. The lives erased and rewritten. The cities seeded with memory ash. Lucian screamed. This isn't death. No, Eva whispered. It's what you called heaven. Magnus stepped forward, shouting over the roar of flame. Eva. You can stop this. Burn it down, and the stone. Wipe it all out. Eva's hands trembled. She could feel the fire offering her two paths. Annihilation. Pure reset. Memory erased. The stone shattered forever. Integration. Keep the fire alive, but under her will. Reshape it. Rule it. Gaius stared at her. He's right. Kill the flame. Kill it now. But Eva's voice came softly. No. Magnus blinked. No. I won't be like Lucian. I won't destroy just to feel clean. She turned toward the fireborn still suspended in their broken pods. I can give them back what he stole. She reached out. Gold surged through her palms, not like lightning, but like breath. Memory returned to the fireborn. Their screams stopped. Their minds cleared. Tears fell. Lucian roared, charging forward in desperation, his staff crackling. But Magnus intercepted him. Old teacher versus oldest student. The two collided with the weight of centuries between them. Magnus shattered the staff with one strike of a null-forged blade. Lucian gasped, falling. As Magnus knelt beside him, Lucian whispered. You could have joined me. Magnus shook his head. I did. And I've been paying for it ever since. Then he let the flames take him. Lucian burned. And did not come back. Eva turned to Magnus. The altar was crumbling. The resonance crystals exploding. We have to go, Gaius shouted. But Eva remained still. Magnus grabbed her arm. Eva, come with me. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. If I leave now, the memory chain will fracture. The others will relapse. The fire will lose direction. Magnus shook his head. No. No more martyrdom. Eva held out her hand. Placed something in his palm. A second vial. Kasha's final memory. It belongs to you. And then she kissed him. One last time. The mountain cracked. A fire brighter than day burst from the summit, then disappeared in a blink, leaving only snow and ash behind. Gaius and Magnus stood at the edge of the forest. No words. No sound. Just the soft fall of morning snow. Then, from the ash, a figure emerged. Eva. Alive. Eyes clear. Heart whole. She smiled. And said. I didn't burn it down. I rewrote it. Chapter 23, The Final Fire. Location, Geneva Safe House, 2 days later. The snow had stopped falling. For the first time in weeks, the world felt still. But peace was a lie. The broadcasts had already begun, fragments of footage from Lucian's fall, Eva's emergence from the flame, the golden light rising from the mountain. Some called it salvation. Some called it sorcery. Most called it the next frontier. Governments denied involvement. But private firms began bidding on leaked blueprints from Lucian's labs. Tech conglomerates. Black-budget militaries. Even a biotech startup in Tokyo had already announced a regenerative serum prototype traced directly to the fireborn genome. Lucian was dead. But the fire had never been about one man. Eva sat on a couch in the dark, staring at her reflection in a cracked mirror. Her skin no longer shimmered. Her eyes had dulled. But when she pressed her palm to the wall, the memories still came. All of them. Whispers from the stone's chain. Flashes of fire and shadow. 1,000 years of alchemical history, still alive in her bloodstream. I'm not a weapon, she whispered. But she could already feel the world trying to make her one. Magnus stepped into the room, holding a laptop. We have a problem. Eva stood slowly. Let me guess, someone found the black site in Cairo? Worse, he said. They found the vault in Alexandria. Eva's eyes widened. That vault was sealed with blood code. Magnus nodded grimly. Lucian's blood. But someone opened it after he died. Eva stared at him. Then who? A woman in a navy coat stepped through a reinforced lab chamber aboard an underwater excavation vessel. She was ageless. Pale. Eyes like onyx. In her hands, a sealed case marked with the sigil of the first Roman cult to worship the stone, not Lucian's circle, but Nero's. She opened the case. Inside, a preserved spinal column, pulsing faintly with gold-threaded marrow. A voice crackled over the comms. "Dr. Severan, the core is active." She smiled. "Then let's give it breath." That night, Eva dreamed. But it wasn't a memory. It was a message. The dream bled with heat. Sand. Screams. She saw Nero again, strapped to his own throne, mouth forced open, gold pouring down his throat. She saw a woman in shadow, guiding the ritual. Not Lucian. Someone older. "You buried me beneath Alexandria," the voice whispered. "But memory never dies. It waits. And now, you've awakened the final fire. The one even Lucian was too afraid to light." Eva woke screaming. Magnus ran to her side. She clutched his hand. "There's someone else," she gasped. "She's not in the chain. She's older than it. She was the first keeper. And she's coming back." Interpol raided an alchemical vault beneath an Ottoman-era mansion. What they found stunned even the most hardened agents. Crates of crystallized memory dust. Gene-spliced embryos, part human, part stone. And one scroll. Written in Latin. Signed with a single symbol. A double-headed serpent, the sigil of the Caducei order. Eva translated it in seconds. The fire never died. The first queen swallowed it whole. And now she will speak through the last vessel. The girl who remembers too much. She looked at Magnus. "She's not just coming back," Eva whispered. "She's coming through me." Far beneath Alexandria, where the ocean touched the bones of history, the chamber known as the coil activated for the first time in 1,800 years. Alchemical conduits sparked. Sarcophagi opened. Old gods wept from stone. And in the center, a golden throne rose. Empty. Waiting. Chapter 24, The Final Fire. Location, coastal waters near Alexandria, 2:11 a.m. The boat rocked on ink-black waves. Beneath it, a submerged tunnel glowed faintly in golden lines, etched into stone that predated every known empire. Magnus stood at the bow, wind slicing through his coat. Gaius prepped gear without speaking. Eva sat near the stern, her hands gripping the edge, knuckles white. No one spoke of what they might find. No one dared to guess what would happen if the coil awakened fully. They dove in silence, oxygen tanks strapped to their backs, following the current down into the throat of the first fire. The current pulled them through a tunnel shaped like a spiral, wider than any aqueduct, older than any tomb. Symbols flickered faintly as Eva passed. Not Latin. Not Greek. Something older. Something alive. Her breath hitched inside her mask. The tunnel led into a vast air pocket, where the water fell away and the ocean seemed to hover above them, a ceiling of shimmering waves held back by something unnatural. They emerged, soaked and breathless, into a domed chamber. The walls pulsed gold. The air vibrated with memory. The coil. At the center of the coil stood a throne. Crafted not from stone, but fused bone and memory ash, flesh and flame made solid. Around it, 12 sarcophagi, half opened, revealing forms in various stages of decay. Not dead. Not alive. And behind it all, towering over the throne, stood a statue of a woman with no face, arms raised, a crown of gold spikes piercing her scalp. Inscribed beneath it. She who remembered the fire before fire had a name. Magnus read it aloud. "It's not Roman," he whispered. "It's pre-Carthaginian. Possibly Sumerian." Gaius nodded slowly. This isn't where the stone ended. Eva stepped forward. It's where it began. As Eva's fingers brushed the armrest, the chamber vanished. She saw fire in its first form, not destruction, but awareness. A woman stood on the edge of a desert, raising her hands to the sun. Not to worship it, but to take it. She bound light into breath. Wove memory into marrow. Created the first philosopher's seed by sacrificing part of herself, splitting her soul to preserve knowledge across lifetimes. She was the first alchemist. And she was lonely. So she built the coil to create others. But they didn't inherit her balance. Only her hunger. Lucian had merely scratched the surface of what she once was. And now, that fire wanted back in. Eva collapsed to her knees, gasping. Magnus caught her. What did you see? She's inside the chain. Buried so deep no one ever found her. Not even Lucian. But she's not dead. Gaius unsheathed a blade. Then we finish it. Burn the coil. Destroy the throne. No, Eva said, rising. If we destroy it, her consciousness will scatter. Good, Gaius snapped. No, she said more firmly. If that happens, it won't vanish. It'll infect everyone in the memory chain, including the fireborn. Magnus went pale. Like a spiritual contagion. She has to be contained, Eva said. Gaius gritted his teeth. By what? Another throne? Eva turned slowly to face the seat of memory. And for the first time, didn't flinch. Magnus stepped forward. If you sit on that throne, she'll merge with you. Eva nodded. That's why I need you to be the one to keep me from losing myself. If you're wrong, Gaius warned, we won't have time to stop you. Then be ready. Eva reached into her satchel and handed Magnus the final nulldust shard, the one Kasha had never used. If I become her, she said, you end me. Promise me. Magnus hesitated. Then took it. Only if you give me a reason. As Eva sat, the chamber convulsed. The 12 sarcophagi sealed shut. The water above began to ripple, upward. The gold veins lit like lightning across the floor. And then the first alchemist appeared behind Eva. Not a ghost. Not a spirit. But a reflection. They stared at one another. One forged the fire. The other became it. Why did you call me? Eva whispered. To remember me, the woman said. And to end me before I forget myself. Eva let her breath slow. She reached into the coil. She didn't destroy it. She rewrote it. Memory by memory. Fire by fire. Ash by ash. Until the hunger became knowledge. Until the seed became a story. And the throne fell silent. Magnus emerged from the coil, carrying Eva in his arms. She was breathing. Barely. But behind her, the light was gone. The first fire had finally gone out. Chapter 25, Ashes to Ashes. Location, Rome, 2 weeks later. The city hadn't changed. Pigeons still circled the Colosseum. Tourists still tossed coins into the Trevi fountain. Espresso still hissed from ancient machines in quiet cafes. But beneath the city, something was gone. The fire was silent. Eva sat on the balcony, wearing borrowed clothes and holding a cup of too-strong coffee. She stared out at the skyline like she was seeing it for the first time. Because in many ways, she was. Behind her, Magnus watched from the doorway, eyes heavy with things he couldn't say. Do you feel it? He asked quietly. Eva shook her head. No voices. No memories. Just, now. She looked down at her hands. They didn't glow anymore. No flickers of gold. No fire in her veins. They were just hands. Alive. Human. The news moved fast. Small Orange Diamond, the Fireborn cult, collapsed within 48 hours. Their command structure had depended entirely on the memory chain, which now lay dormant. Small Orange Diamond biotech corporations went dark. Without live memory dust, their prototypes failed. Small Orange Diamond military contracts were shredded. Black sites sealed. Experiments stopped. Small Orange Diamond Lucian's followers fractured. Some claimed Eva had stolen the fire. Others said she was the fire. But the truth? The truth no one wanted to say. It was over. For now. He lit a fire with flint and steel. No alchemy. No shortcuts. Just the old way. He sat beside it and whispered a prayer in Latin. For the ones who remembered too much. Then he turned to Ash a small scroll he had kept hidden for centuries, Kasha's final map. He didn't need it anymore. Eva watched a violinist perform in a small plaza. The music curled into the air like mist, haunting and imperfect. She turned to Magnus, who sat beside her. "Why did you bring me here?" she asked. He hesitated. "You told me once that if you ever survived the fire, you wanted to hear the sound of something fragile." She nodded slowly. "I don't remember saying that." "I know," he said. They were quiet for a while. Then Eva whispered, "Was I her?" "Kasha?" "Yeah." Magnus took a long breath. "You carried her. But you were never her." She turned to him. "And now?" He looked at her, really looked. "You're just you." Later that night, while Eva slept, Magnus returned to his lab beneath the city. He opened a drawer. Inside, a small, sealed vial. Not golden. But silver. It pulsed softly. One final secret. He stared at it for a long time. Then closed the drawer.
Across every empire, every forgotten age, stories still whisper. If this tale stirred your spirit, leave a like to honor the echoes of the past. Share your thoughts in the comments. Every voice weaves a new legend into the sands of time. And subscribe to our YouTube channel Historical Fantasy Stories, where myths walk beside history, and every discovery changes the world. The next forgotten legend is waiting to be found.